And now time to look at what the papers are saying, both local and international newspapers. And we have joining us this morning, Dr. Constance. Good morning, glad to have you join us.
Good morning, MD. Good morning, Adesua. It's a wonderful morning. Adesua was saying that she's feeling sleepy. I hope you do not fall asleep on set.
In my defense, it's Friday. It's been a productive week.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of things have happened in the news, so
yeah.
I'm allowed to feel that way, right?
Exactly. Okay, so we also have joining us for paper review this morning, Eniola Akinkotu. He is the Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report. Welcome, Eniola.
Oh, good morning, Constance.
Right, we'll start with this day newspaper, our sister publication. And we're going to be looking at the story. PDP scoffs at Ighodalo's dismissal as appeal court upturns pro-Wike lawmakers' sack. So a federal high court had yesterday nullified the PDP governorship primaries in Edo State People's Democratic Party, thereby replacing or removing its candidate, Dr. Asue Ighodalo, from the race. But the PDP insists the ruling does not affect its candidate. The Edo election holds September 21. Also, the Abuja division of the Court of Appeal has overturned the sack of 25 Rivers State lawmakers loyal to Minister Nyesom Wike. On Edo, the court said the primaries did not comply with the party's constitution. This means the PDP will have no candidate in September. And then for Rivers, the appellate court said the trial court lacked jurisdiction to hear and decide the issue of the defection of the lawmakers from the PDP. You know, it's utter chaos and confusion everywhere. It's obvious that politics is simply a game for Nigerian politicians rather than the serious business of changing lives. How do we go forward from here, Eniola?
Edo State, it's a big blow for the PDP, but of course they still have the right of appeal, the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court, so definitely this is just the beginning. But it gives the APC and probably Labour too some subtle victory as of now. Funny enough, if you look at yesterday too, there was a trending video of the impeached Deputy Governor Philip Shuaibu celebrating too. So you can see that the PDP is entering this election with a highly divided house. Although he too is he's been expelled from the PDP, so I won't really call him a PDP member anymore. But I mean, at this point in time, it's going to cause a lot of problems for the PDP. But there's some lawyers who argue too that the delegates who actually went to court had no locus standi because it's only those who participated in the election, the primaries themselves, that's the aspirants, those are the only ones who have the locus to go to court. So it's interesting to see, but most likely it's going to get to the Supreme Court, definitely. It will end up at the Supreme Court. But the PDP doesn't really need this distraction at this time. The election is just how many months away? 2 months away, yeah. And then in Rivers State, of course, it was just on the issue of jurisdiction. The court did not even look at the merit of the case. You know, it also reinforces that argument that there are certain cases that are meant for certain courts. Some courts have exclusive jurisdiction over certain cases. Now, we can draw allusions to the Sanusi case as well, where the Federal High Court ruled, and people are saying, look, it's only the state high courts that have the jurisdiction over chieftaincy and kingship matters. So you can see that when it comes to political matters in Nigeria, there's hardly any judicial consistency. Of course, that's one in Rivers State is also going to end up at the Supreme Court. So we'll see how that goes. There's still another case on the, what's it called now? Challenging their membership of the PDP. So that one is still ongoing. Obviously, these matters are going to get to Supreme Court, yeah.
Yes, you're correct. My sense is that there will be more court cases. The aggrieved will go back to court. They will spend more money. They will dig in there, and the cases will drag on. And then this continues to do sustained damage, not only to our political system, but also to our legal system, because you ask, the lawyers or the judges that make such judgment when, for instance, you know you do not have jurisdiction, or even the politicians that head to court at every slightest opportunity. Indeed, this is a problem.
Well, what the court is saying is that the election was flawed because 378 delegates were not allowed to participate. And then secondly, it went against the Electoral Act of 2022, and like Eniola said, maybe the appeal court, Supreme Court may have to come in here. But this takes me to the election just concluded in UK, where the Secretary of Defense, who lost a seat sharp, is saying that what happened here was that there was disagreement in-house, and it dovetailed out. So there was division. That's what the PDP is experiencing, and that's what the voters voted against. That's why they lost the election. That's what he's saying. So I mean, there's division in this. All this divisions in PDP is most likely going to cost them.
Yeah, well, for Rivers State, for instance, I think for Wike lawmakers, it seems like a victory for them now, but that's not the end of it. Adesua, do you have anything to add?
You know, in these two instances, Edo or Rivers, it's bottom line here is the PDP that's in crisis. The PDP seems to be going into the Edo elections against itself, against the judiciary, against the opposition, and in Rivers State, it's a house against itself as well. Now, there have been many interpretations to these court rulings that happened yesterday simultaneously. You know, I just wonder where we draw the line. While we praise that people will seek, you know, judicial interpretations and go to the courts when aggrieved and don't take laws into their hands, sometimes you really have to wonder and question these rulings and these judgments, and how we have this mix of politics and, you know, the courts. It looks like at every point in time, at every point of our electoral process, the courts must have a say. And it speaks to a larger issue of the politics, the kind of politics we play, the individuals who get to power. Because if you're truly getting into power for the people, if you're putting the people before your personal interest, if you're putting the people before your party. I mean, I listened to Keir Starmer's victory speech. He says, I will govern everybody, I will put country before party. Is that the kind of politics we've really seen here? It seems, you know, it's all, I take it all, it's all do or die, and that's why we have this crisis we have on our hands with political parties. And it's across board. Unfortunately, this morning we're talking about the PDP in both instances. We need to check ourselves. Actually, I take that back. Politicians need to check themselves and ask the right questions. Do they really want to serve because they love the people? Do they really want to serve because they want to bring development to their people? Or this is just about, because I don't understand how a party will be going against itself. Right. Like I said, going against, you know, the judiciary, going against the opposition. It's a lot going on.
Right. So, Eniola, let's go back to Edo State. So the PDP is in crisis now. This presents a chance for the Labour Party and the APC. I think quite a number of people are hoping that the Labour Party wins, you know, so there is a new party. I don't know if that's going to happen, but what chances do you think they have in that state?
Well, the Labour Party candidate, that's Olumide Akpata, is trying to ride on the coattails of Peter Obi, mainly. His strength mainly is the Edo South. That is where he comes from, which is the Benin division, which is also where Obaseki comes from. Of course, there are arguments that the current governor is from Benin, and his successor shouldn't be from Benin. He should go to Edo Central, which is the Esan division. So that is where you have Akpebolo, the APC candidate, and Aswe Ighodalo, the PDP candidate. That's where they're from. So that may work against him. And of course, Labour Party is not really strong in Edo State. Yes, they won the presidential election, but if you look at other elections, they didn't really do that well. It was APC. APC won 2 senatorial seats in the last election there. So APC is still the party to beat there. Edo North is APC's stronghold. APC has been winning that place for many years now. So if APC is able to win Edo North and then Edo Central, then they're good to go. And with what's happening in the PDP now, there's going to be the argument that, look, this party, there's really no point voting for them. Their house is divided. I mean, they are one leg in, one leg out. So there's no point voting for them. So that argument could work. So we'll see how it goes. Of course, Appeal Court and Supreme Court are the ones that are going to determine finally what's going to happen.
Right, these are evolving stories, so we'll be watching them for you. Let's quickly go to the Guardian newspaper. So on the Guardian, we have JAMB clamps down on fake diploma certificates for university admission. Of 44,866 applicants in 2023, 1,957 had forged certificates. Only 6 had genuine papers in 148 applicants in Bayero University, Kano. 79 out of 82 institutions yet to comply with JAMB's verification directive. Blame institutions' laxity, not candidates, applicants say. Well, we are told that 604 direct entry candidates may lose their admission into universities over failed verification. While it's obvious we are dealing with an epidemic here, I think many students get away with forged certificates, and that's why this kind of thing continues. And then, of course, the failure of verification at the universities. But apart from that, maybe there's so much or too much emphasis on higher institution or education. We do need a quality, public, free primary and secondary education in this country. We need to achieve universal basic education. Eniola.
Oh, definitely. You're very, very right. It's not compulsory to go to university. You see that some of the most successful people in the world, the likes of Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, yes, they got into university and they dropped out. So in societies where you have very good educational system, primary and secondary schools are enough for you to at least to give you an advantage in life. So if this particular issue of, I think there's an overemphasis in this country of paper qualification. And that's why you see that a lot of students are willing to forge, not even students alone. Look at our political class. Starting from 1999, you had the Salisu Buhari scandal, who was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, for forging his university degree. You've had that so many times. Remember, too, in the last election, it was a major feature of the last election, where the current holder, too, was accused, and the battle got to the United States as well. And the U.S. authorities were even wondering that, why is the university certificate such a big issue? So, obviously, I think we need to de-emphasize university education. This new incoming Prime Minister of the UK was even saying that, look, he's the first graduate in his family. That all his parents never went to school, his brothers never went to school and all that. So what JAMB is doing, I think, is good, because we can't have people with fake certificates filtering into our higher institutions of learning. But ultimately, I think we need to de-emphasize university education, really.
Quite embarrassing and places a huge dent on certificates emanating from our country. So if you have a certificate and you have all the stories out there, when you go abroad and you have to do something, people question the quality of your degree, or even whether you have a true degree or it's a forged one, Andy.
Well, the point is, criminality is criminality. I think it's the failure of institutions. Basically, whether you de-emphasize or you don't, I don't think it's a question of de-emphasizing university education. It's important to get an education. But I think the most important thing here will be tackling the institutions, tackling the problem head on. The institutions who are supposed to, I mean, you hold some exams and you see examiners helping students, with what you call EXPO and all that. So it's basically a question of tackling this menace of people. How do they manage to get fake certificates? There are inside dealings and all that. So it's an institutional problem. If no matter what you do, even if you de-emphasize, people will always find a way to circumvent what you do. So it's getting the institutions responsible to tackle this menace.
But Andy, you cannot deny the fact that there is a desperation for university education and university certificate, because in most places, if you're looking for work, you need to have at least a first degree. And then it has even moved on to master's. And then in some cases now, it's a PhD. And yet there are so many people that do not have the smarts
and the
intellectual
that you cannot
capability.
even have even if you stay working as a toddler.
Right, and the intellectual capability to go to higher institutions. So if you have a country that promotes and dignifies skills and talents, then it makes it easier. You don't have to, try to forge your certificate. This is what you were saying something.
Yes, like I said, the requirements can be very Herculean and crazy. I mean, work experience for, where are the jobs and how would I have gotten that work experience? On a lighter note, just yesterday, news filtered in from Egypt. Guess what? Their new education minister, Mohammed Abdel Latif, has a fake PhD certificate. So there's that controversy because fact checkers are now checking the certificate he presented to get into office, and they're saying that PhD is fake. So it's not common to Nigeria only. We see all of this. That does not make it right. But I do agree with Indy that we don't need to de-emphasize getting an education to whatever levels you want to get to. To university, you can aspire to be,
of course,
aspire to the highest levels you want to be in life, but don't go about it the crooked way. So I also agree with Indy to say that these things don't fall from the sky. Individuals are involved. So how do we clear the menace? JAMB is saying these are fake. What makes them fake? Who are the people involved? What are the institutions? What is the penalty for presenting fake consequences? So you see, our fabric as a society has been sold. Our moral values as a people, we need to question ourselves sometimes. This is not about government anymore. It is about you. It's about the individual. What are you doing? How desperate are you to get this? And what level, what extent are you going to go to get it? So if you can do that to get a fake certificate, you have no moral justification to question those who govern you and you say they don't govern you properly if they get in through a method you do not like. Because you yourself, you've not gone about your life the proper way. So as a people, there's a lot of things we need to do as a people to get it right. It's not about government alone this time around. We, the people, must question our morals, we must question our values. Then the system has to work. It is not enough for JAMB to come out and tell us these are the problems. They must fix it. We must all fix it.
Well, the head of JAMB, is not in an enviable position. It's difficult for him, but also the institutions have a job to do. The universities have to do their job as well. So let's go to a Blueprint, a newspaper. In Blueprint, Tinubu unveils 2 trillion economic stabilization plan, targets 4.7 million jobs.
Blueprint.
Yes, Blueprint. He has tasked the team on energy, oil and gas, agriculture, and others. We have capacity to turn economy around within months, say Dangote and Elumelu. So what's this about? The plan will involve 350 billion naira funding for health and social welfare, 500 billion naira funding for agriculture and food security, another 500 billion naira for energy and power sector, then 650 billion naira for general business support. The money will help to turn around these critical sectors of the economy. At least that's what the government hopes. It's meant also to get businesses growing again. And according to the Minister of Finance, the president is focused on food production, food security, and nutrition security. Quite a number of numbers here that we're dealing with this morning. It all looks fantastic on paper. The worry is often that when we launch these projects, we launch them with a lot of fanfare, and then not much progress is made when push comes to shove. But this sort of intervention is needed, though, at this time, Eniola.
Well, it's better than doing nothing. But 2 trillion naira is more or less a drop in the ocean. That's just about $1.3 billion. That's not enough to revive the economy. So I'm not expecting anything big to happen, from this. what most businesses are asking for is they're asking the government to tackle legacy issues. You have a problem of electricity. Just 2 days ago, the Minister of Power was saying that about 16 trillion naira is what Nigeria spent on generating electricity by themselves. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria too said, I think last year, that about 30% of operational costs goes to running generators and all that. So these are the things we need to deal with. Then on the agricultural angle, I think you said about 500 billion naira is going to be released for agriculture. The major problem there is insecurity. There's no amount of money that can solve, that can revitalize Nigeria's agricultural sector, you know. So this intervention is better than doing nothing, as I said, but it's still very, very little. We need to also look at ease of doing business. When Blinken came to Nigeria last year, that's the U.S. Secretary of State, he mentioned 3 major things that foreign investors were complaining about, which was corruption, the exchange rate issues, and the ease of doing business. Look at Nigeria's ports, for instance. You're supposed to declare a state of emergency there anyway, and that's on the ports. Look at how difficult it is to bring goods into Nigeria. To even export is even more difficult these days. So these are the issues that we should be looking at. Legacy issues, infrastructure. This money that they're talking about, this 2 trillion, is going to do very little to revitalize the economy. That's my own submission, though.
Yeah, very, very valid points there, Aniola. And when you look at the electricity issue, recently the PHCN has raised again the tariff for Band A customers. So these are, most of them, you know, or some of them are households, but there's also businesses in those areas in Band A. So it's really a crucial issue, energy. If you do not solve that problem, it looks like you're throwing money around. That's what it will seem like at this one.
Oh, indeed. When I listened to the president yesterday call the erratic power situation in the country shameful, you know, I was shocked. I'm like, okay. So the president is well aware that he's in charge and he understands the issues. He says we cannot be doing 4.5 gigawatts at this point, and he's hoping that we can push that to 6 in 6 months.
Which is still dismal.
Exactly. You know, and every government comes to power promising increased electricity. But beyond that, for me, you know, I'd like to see concrete steps. Yes, the president understands the issues. This money is, no matter how little they are going to go into the economy. We wait to see how that happens. But again, I'd like to see something done. When you understand the issues as where we are is shameful, what comes next? Do we have the right people to take us to the promised land of increased electricity power? If we don't have them there, then what do we do? So these are the questions I would like to see answered by the administration.
You know, Mdi, let's go to agriculture. We have food inflation today in Nigeria, and it's doing a lot of damage to everyone across the country. And so the president says he's putting money into agriculture, but like Eniola also mentioned, it's not enough to throw money into that problem. If you do not solve the problem of rampaging herdsmen or terrorists, you know, invading farming communities and sacking them, there is no amount of money that will turn this around.
I totally agree with Eniola. Emmanuel Azinge the other day said, he said something that was quite poignant when maybe the Minister of Power would say power energy here is cheap, and he says, if you say that, do they have living wage here? One would wonder why electricity tariff, which is a problem that Labour is fighting with government, gets increased again. That doesn't seem to make sense at all. What are you telling Labour? Everything Eniola said holds true. It's good, like Adeswo said, no matter how little you put. The point is that at least you're putting money in. So you can go, maybe not a long way, but some way. But the most important thing is creating the environment. Labour won't be crying so much if the food, the expendable income in the hands of the people, can purchase food, can pay school fees, can pay for health. These are basic things. Even the manufacturers are crying that their overhead cost is so much because of what they have to pay. in electricity. Like you said, it was the power minister that said 16 point something trillion Nigeria spent on providing electricity for themselves. That is a no-no. That is really crass. So the environment, don't let what you can do stop you from doing what you can do. Yeah, while they are doing this, tackle the ease of doing business, insecurity, make food cheap, and things, provide electricity. And you may not even need to set up this council.
And so when the president announced this, he was flanked by some businessmen and people like, the big ones, the usuals. The Dangotes, the Elumelus, they are always around. And they said, we can do this. We can turn this economy around. And Yola, do you think that within the next couple of months, because when you talk, you want to see the results of progress quickly, because a lot of people are in very tight situations. Do you see any movement or significant movement in a few months?
So far, the only thing that they've been able to do is to unify the exchange rates. That is the parallel market rate and the official one. So far, that's the only thing that they've been able to achieve. I don't see the economy being turned around in just a few months. And I've noticed too that the last two presidents, you had Buhari and Jonathan, they also had this same advisory committee made up with mainly the same set of people. So, I mean, these people are all giants in their own industry too, but I don't really see what magic they're going to perform, really. Nigeria is projected to be the fourth largest economy in Africa, falling from number 1 to number 4 this year. This administration is targeting a $1 trillion economy, and IMF is saying that we're going to be about $280 billion or so, which is almost quarter of what we are targeting. So we have a very long way to go, but I don't think that it's something that can be done in the short term. It's going to take a while.
All right. You're still watching Daybreak, coming to you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We'll be back and continue to look at what the papers are saying on their front pages. Don't go away.
Well, it's Friday, July 5. You're watching Daybreak, and it's the paper review on the show this morning. I believe it's 7:34 a.m. West African time. Thank you so much for staying with us. Dr. Constance Goku is in the studios with us this morning, and our guest analyst for the day is Mr. Akikotu. Akinkotu.
That's why you speak Yoruba, don't you?
Mr. Akikotu, apologies this morning.
Thank
you so much for staying with us.
You actually pronounced it well. Though.
Thank you, you see, thank you.
No, I pronounce it better, come on. Okay, let's look at Punch newspaper. Punch, we'll be looking at the flooding. 10 states battling flooding. 21 others at risk. This report tells us that many states are experiencing various degrees of flooding due to the torrential rain. I mean, it's rainy season, right? Mm-hmm. There have been casualties too. And then the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Otsef, said this in a briefing in Abuja yesterday. He revealed that the annual flood outlook by the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency released in April predicted that 148 local government areas in 31 states fall within the high flood risk areas. These states include Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bayelsa, Bauchi, Benue, Borno, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo, Imo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi. There's also Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Oshun, Oyo, Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, and Yobe. I mean, it's everyone. Mm-hmm. It said flooding will begin this month. It's already started, and 10 states predicted have already been affected. First of all, this is the first time I'm hearing from this man, Water Resources Minister and Sanitation, Professor Joseph. And sometimes you have to wonder the portfolios and the cabinets and ministries, what they do and if they are active. Aniola.
Oh, definitely. When Joseph was appointed, when he was nominated back in August last year, or July, August last year, many of us didn't even know who he was. And now again is the sort of minister that you hardly hear about. There are so many of them that way. I think the only ministers we hear about most times, I don't think there are more than 10 out of the 46 ministers in the cabinet. And that aside, I mean, this news too is also heartbreaking because Nigeria is currently battling a cholera epidemic. And when you now add flood into the mix in a country where open defecation is prevalent, then you're looking at another health disaster altogether. This flooding didn't come without a warning. You know, most times they issue warnings, NIMET and others always issue warnings, and it gives us enough time to prepare. But at the end of the day, we found out that so many people keep dying of floods. You know, of course, we can't forget what happened in Bayelsa. I think that was in 2022. It was, you know, terrible. And we expected that at least Nigeria would be better prepared for a flood again. I think at that time, too, they were saying that, oh, because there was this dam that was opened in Cameroon, that's what caused, that's what aggravated the flood. So now we had enough time to prepare. I don't expect the casualty figure to be as high as 2022. But of course, it's going to affect lives and livelihoods. It's going to affect agriculture as well, because depending on the kind of plant, not all plants can survive floods like that. So I expect that the government will have mobilized enough emergency officials to these affected states. But of course, we also have to look at the effect of climate change. This flooding is also one of the consequences of climate change. Nigeria is supposed to have, there's an agency known as the Green Wall Agency or something. I'm trying to remember its formal name now, but it has to do with Green Wall. And we were told last year that monies, the National Assembly investigated, and they said that monies were diverted. Monies that should have been used to prevent things like this was diverted. So, of course, even at the state level, you have some governors who were accused of diverting the ecological fund. So what are the governors doing with the ecological funds? Most of them, you know, they just see it as extra money for them to fritter away. So hopefully this flooding would not be as bad as that of 2022.
We actually have a hydrological services agency. I don't know about you guys. I don't hear much from this agency either. But apparently they had, you know, given or issued the warning. I think there isn't sufficient awareness, though, across the country. Maybe the state governors are aware, but generally, in terms of the people being aware that this is what is coming to them. I mean, 31 states out of 36 in the country. That's a lot.
I have tried to read through this report where the Minister Otsev held a press conference. I am hard put to see what his plans are about preventing or solving the flood problem. There's a story of people who were praying that wanted to go out to service, and they were praying for rain. There was no rain. An elderly woman took an umbrella, and everybody was laughing at her. By the time they got to the prayer place, and when they were coming back, rain started. She was the only one who had an umbrella as prevention. What we should be doing is prevention, planning. There should be a coordinated plan. I was reading and I was thinking, is it possible the government at the federal can call together the states and say, let's sit down, let's brainstorm. What do we do before the rains come? You don't buy an umbrella after the rain. You buy an umbrella and keep it before the rain. So precaution, I mean, Eniola said funds were diverted. The question is, who diverted the funds? Where are they? What has been done to them? We seem to have so many, I don't know what to call it, challenges. Or we take things for granted. We leave things undone. Nobody ever gets punished. The key here is prevention. What steps, preparation have you done? I mean, it's not the first time. It's happened before. So it's happening again.
Right.
What lessons have you learned?
Right. The thing, though, is when you look across the country, 31 states, right, are going to be affected. Yeah. You can also see the impact of poor urbanization. In my state, for instance, the last time I traveled, I was shocked at how much people are moving to centers, and it's
City centers.
it's urbanizing, but
tell us the
it's being done very poorly. Why do you need to know?
No, just so we know. We know the state,
Okay.
and whatever we can help them.
I am in Nigeria, Nandi.
Okay. Okay. So I'm not an old man, Indy, but you know, in the rainy season, I carry my umbrella everywhere I go, and that's just on a light note. And to react to some of the things that have been raised, the hydrological services actually have been active. Every year, what we have seen is that we have these warnings from the federal government agencies. We see preparations from the federal government. However, we cannot say the same for the subnationals, and that's been a challenge over the years. Every year, every rainy season, we see preparations, we see NEMA, we see federal agencies shouting, holding press conferences, but the rains come and then the states, you know, are lackluster and then they are cutting it. But thankfully, we have the National Economic Council, which is chaired by the Vice President. And to in this point, the National Economic Council, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, has the 36 state governors as members. And then there was a subcommittee that was formed in the committee. Coincidentally, last week, they submitted their report. That committee is chaired by the current governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, and they submitted a report. So part of the things that they came up with was that the name of the committee is the Ad hoc Committee on Flood Erosion, Drought and Desertification. They presented this updates and recommendations calling for the revitalization of state emergency management agencies. Again, to my point that we see so much with NEMA at the federal, but when it comes to the states at SEMA, we don't see so much, and there are lots of issues, factors that you can attribute to that. They also said there's a need for improved coordination between different levels of government. Now, the council also resolved to adopt the committee's recommendation and provide funds to the states and relevant MDAs. Now, whether those funds have been released, whether those MDAs have been called to order and you know, on red alert or amber alert or whatever alert they want to be, that's another kettle of fish at this point.
Funds were used.
Yes.
If they were released.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, in regions like the south is where they have problem of irrigation. Is it? No, not irrigation.
Erosion.
Erosion,
yeah.
Erosion because of the topography. Human activity is also a problem because when there is no proper coordination by the government or preparations, what you see that people engage in deforestation, and that shifts and affects the environment. Anyway, let's go to a leadership newspaper. 150 billion naira loan. Reactions trail signing of Samoa agreement. And then also Vanguard newspaper has this story. But let's pull up leadership. So the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has come to the defense of the government. He says that this was signed by Nigeria on June 28, 2024, and there's no problem with it. He says that there was extensive reviews, consultations by interministerial committees before it was signed. He said President Tinubu will not enter into an agreement detrimental to Nigerians. He said it's just a legal framework for cooperation between the European Union and Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States to promote sustainable development. It says it is noteworthy that only 5% of 79 OACP member states are yet to sign to the agreement. All 27 EU minister states have signed. And then my thought is, of course, all EU member states have signed because they are always super prepared and organized in all these international agreements. They always lead the way. They run the international capitalist economy. Anyway, Aniela, your quick thoughts on this before we go to the international headlines.
I mean, what's really causing the ruckus is the issue of the LGBT, which I think it should be a non-issue, actually. Well, I don't know why Nigeria, I mean, at this point in our history, when we are facing this cost of living crisis, and FDI is drying up, we're looking at getting in, you know, foreign funds into the country, and people are still so distracted with LGBT. I mean, I think it's a non-issue. Nigeria is supposed to have signed this thing last year. I think it was October or November last year, but because of this particular clause, they said they were holding off on signing. Now they've signed it, and we're having a protest again over it. I don't think it's something that, it's just a distraction, in my own opinion. But that aside, you look at countries like Uganda and others who have signed anti-LGBT laws. You have the World Bank now, breathing down their necks. A time is going to come when multilaterals are going to, ensure or insist that countries approve LGBT rights before they can have access to funds. And it's already happening. So if Nigeria Nigeria wants to continue to remain a homophobic country, then probably they have to look inwards and see how they can improve their economy by themselves. But as long as you're going out, trying to form partnerships with EU, with the West, you must be willing to agree to their terms. As they say, he who pays the piper, he takes the tune.
Agree to their terms if you're begging them for money. Let's go to the Daily Express.
But it has to be said that the Minister of Information gave clarification on this signing yesterday. There is no clause, and there are no clauses that has to do with LGBT.
And it has also to be said that you can't force your culture down my throat.
Right. Okay. Disagreement there. Daily Express, please. So elections in the UK has been held, and we're seeing here a crushing blow to Tory party in election wipeout. It's now been reported that Labour has won the election. Previously, the exit polls had showed that the Tories will suffer a devastating blow in this election. The polls predicted Labour will win with 410 MPs to Tories 131. Also, Conservative cabinet minister and leading ministers and backbenchers could be booted out following a 14-year reign of the party. The predicted 410 MPs for Labour is just short of the 418 seats won by Tony Blair in the elections in 1997. Rishi Sunak has already congratulated Keir Starmer. There are no quarrels, no insults, no court cases. He's moving out of Downing Street. Life moves on. The country moves on. How easy it is to conduct elections, and there are no problems, and the citizens move on with their lives. Lessons here for us, Eniola.
Nigeria was like this at some point in the First Republic. You look at 10 Downing Street, where the UK Prime Minister lives. It's just, you have very little security around there. The UK Prime Minister doesn't use a presidential jet. Now we're arguing over whether the Tinubu should be getting a new one. So you can see that public office is not so attractive. And so that's why you don't have such controversies. How many people are going to go to court and all that? I don't think anybody has said they're going to go to court. So it's just so easy. Yes. And on this election, initially I thought it was just media hype, but now I've seen that, wow, Britons actually want change, and they've gone for it. The Labour Party has won a super majority at this point, and nothing is stopping them from doing whatever they want to do.
Talking about the presidential villa in the UK, or the 10 Downing Street, or even the White House in the United States of America, you can walk in front of the White House. It's not heavily barricaded, and compare that to Aso Rock. My goodness, Aso Rock, you cannot. It's like a fortress on its own. And so do you also have a lot of state government houses in Nigeria? I think that says something about the government that we practice. I don't know, maybe this came from the military rule, where you do not have the support of the people. So you have to barricade yourself and hide yourself somewhere, far away from the view of the people. Indeed.
Well, not only that, that makes sense. When I think about it, you see journalists stand in front of 10 Downing Street. But again, the atmosphere, the mentality of the people. You're talking about Boko Haram, you're talking about bombing here and there, So there is... But
this started before we
a little bit, I don't know, there's a little bit of caution when it comes to... It's not a here or there, But one interesting fact is this. The voters spoke clearly. Some people are saying it's not because of love for Keir Starmer. He wouldn't care. the most important thing is that he's got supermajority, and Tory lost for whatever reason. But the point is that, like he said, they had to change to deliver because they changed the party, and they must continue going as a changed Labour Party. Get moving immediately, rebuild the country, national renewal, and all that and all that.
Yes.
He had to change the party. And then the people responded to what the Tory was doing and voted them out and voted Labour in. So there's a lesson for both the electorate here in Nigeria and then the elected to learn that if you do not go out to exercise your civic responsibility, you may continue to have the kind of things you have. And therefore, the people who are leading, it should be leading and serving, not ruling, because that's what we're experiencing in Africa, in Nigeria.
Right. When in his victory speech, Keir Starmer was watching, and he said a couple of things that are important. He said that Britain will work for its children, and then he mentioned the working class families. Important to them, working class. Nobody is at the bottom of the ladder. Everybody has dignity of labor. The country should work for everybody. And he says we've earned the mandate to work for everybody in Britain. This is significant, Adesua.
Indeed, it is. And I mean, people around the world in the UK will be waking up to a new leadership today. Rishi Sunak is expected back in London, if he has not arrived yet. He's going to see King Charles III
for his resignation.
And then he's going to exit 10 Downing Street. Keir Starmer will be moving in, and it is expected that he will probably be naming his cabinet today. So there is no honeymoon for Keir Starmer.
No.
The list of challenges that the UK is facing at the moment is very long. I do not envy him. I don't think anybody will envy such position. The UK is going through a lot. The National Health Service is on its knees. There's the sewage problem. There's the jail problem, the prison problem. There's the court problems. There's the tax economy. I mean, that list is endless.
There's a NATO meeting to attend next week.
Yeah, and he has a NATO meeting indeed to attend next week in the US. And of course, international diplomacy on his hands. He doesn't have such a huge profile when it comes to international diplomacy. We'll see how he fares in that aspect as well.
Right.
But I think that the point has been made by Eniola and Indy that the British people have spoken. It's a lesson for everyone, the parties. But again, when Indy says that the election result sort of shows that the Conservative lost as much as the Labour Party won. So there's no outright love for Keir Starmer or for the Labour Party.
Right.
It was more of like a protest vote, because you see from
Against
the numbers,
yeah, right.
even from the smaller parties, you see even the smaller parties, while they may not even have those many seats in the House of Commons, you see the numbers at the polls have increased.
Okay.
Unlike what we've seen in the past. So it's not
okay, we have to quickly go to Daily
Things
Graphic.
have changed.
Yeah. We don't have much time. Daily Graphic, Bawumia Opoku Prempeh ticket sealed.
Ghana.
Here, yes, this is from Ghana.
Opoku.
Yeah, they're also having elections in December.
Yes.
Here we know that Ghana's National Council of the New Patriotic Party, NPP, has endorsed Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh as a running mate of the party's flag bearer, Dr. Muhammad Bawumia. Bawumia is currently the vice president of Ghana. So elections are holding everywhere. We just had UK, there's France.
Minister of Power or something.
Yeah, so we just had Rwanda
Minister
is
of
also
energy, I think.
Rwanda is also having elections. You know, he's campaigning already, and it's expected that, you know, Paul Kagame will win again. I think we have a live president there. But generally, have elections worked for African countries, the election cycles, the democracy? We don't have much time. It's 7:55, but you know, you know, thank you, Eniola, so much for joining us this morning. Eniola Akin-Kwotu is the Chief International Correspondent of the Africa Report.
All right, that will be it on, thank you, Constance, thank you, Eniola, on the paper review this morning on Daybreak. Thank you for watching. I am Ndi Amogo. Next, the morning show.
Okay, I give it to Dr. Constance. She speaks Yoruba fairly well, but not better than I do, like she claims. Thank you so much for watching Daybreak here on the Rise News channel. Remember, every moment indeed matters. I am Adesua Omoruwan. Good morning.